Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hitchhiking Ghost podcast. On today's episode, we will be talking about the natural buildup for roller coasters at Walt Disney World. Now, Disney is great for this. A lot of theme parks don't do well with this and run a lot of children away from thrill rides. But I think Disney does a perfect job with this because they start you off at the beginning with, the Barnstormer, Thunder Mountain, and Mine Train. Like really easy thrill rides. They're definitely not hard. But then you level up one more, and I think that you go on Slinky Dog Dash. This coaster is very easy to do. It is not a harsh ride by any means, and you get some acceleration. So if your little kiddo doesn't really like thrill rides, you can just build with them until they appreciate thrill rides. So that you start at Slinky Dog Dash, the height requirement's only 38 inches. And then the next ride you go on is Test Track, I believe. And this is a 40-inch height requirement. And this ride is perfect as the step above to Slinky Dog Dash because it is much faster. And it also accelerates again. So hard acceleration and high speed. And if your children do well on this ride, then you will... This is where we come to a crossroads, okay? You're just going to have to know your child when it comes to the next thing on our list, because I believe that these two rides are pretty much the same in intensity, and you're just going to have to know who your kid is. So if darkness is not their thing, and they hate the dark, and they sleep with the night light on, definitely try Rock and Roller Coaster first. And I know that this is, it kind of has a stigma being a tough ride to go on. But the ride is 30 seconds long. And it does go upside down and is a perfect ride for your little one to do the easiest loop in the world. Because you barely feel that loop, and once you tell your kid that they did a loop, it'll be a huge boost of confidence and they will want to go on more attractions like that. Rock and Roller Coaster would be first if darkness is not their thing, because it's not complete darkness at all, and it's over really quick, and it's also getting them used to the dark and acceleration and flipping, which is a good thing. But the other thing that, is beside Rock and Roller Coaster, in my opinion, in intensity, is Space Mountain. Space Mountain has a height requirement of 44 inches, and Space Mountain can be rough on some people, and especially if you don't like the dark, because it is pitch darkness. But, this ride can also beat you up a little bit, and if you're prone to motion sickness, then it could be a troublemaker for you, to be honest. So for me, I would definitely go on Rock and Roller Coaster first, because even though it's much faster, it finishes quicker and it is much smoother, because Space Mountain does beat you up. So if your child has mastered every single one of these rides, then I think that they should try the hardest roller coaster, in my opinion, and that is Expedition Everest. The size of the mountain alone could be intimidating for some, but it is a great ride if you're able to get them on there. With a height requirement of 44 inches, it is the same as Space Mountain. And with Space Mountain, you get used to the pitch darkness that Expedition Everest does have. Expedition Everest is also very tall, and if you are scared of heights, then it is definitely nerve-wracking. But Expedition Everest, the reason why I think Expedition Everest is a harsh ride, well, it's not harsh by any means, but it is a difficult ride for some people to go on to, is because it has backward movement, which not everybody is prepared for. And it is pitch black in certain areas while going backwards. So that is definitely a hill you're going to have to climb. And speaking of hill to climb, it has a very large lift hill, which is pretty nerve-wracking for people that have height issues. So, and on top of that, it has a scary Yeti. So if the little ones don't really appreciate dinosaur, then the Yeti could be a little bit scary to them. So maybe they could close their eyes. And also, it has a high speed. So it has 50 miles an hour is the top speed. So it's just a little bit lower than Test Track and Rock and Roller Coaster. But this roller coaster also has a taller drop than Splash Mountain. So that's definitely something that your kid will have to overcome. So definitely go on Splash Mountain. Let's talk about drop rides for a second. Definitely go on Splash Mountain first. And then Haunted Mansion to see if your kid is good with ghosts. And Splash Mountain to see if your kid is good with drops. And then, once your child is okay with both of those, then definitely try Tower of Terror. Now, Tower of Terror has the tallest drop out of any Disney ride, with 131 feet being the total drop you can have. And it is definitely a tough attraction to master, because my parents took my older brother on it when he was 5 years old. And everyone was staring at them like, have you lost your mind? You're taking that young child on this ride. Because there are ghosts. And it is nerve-wracking whenever you do the drops. Definitely. It is also a very intimidating attraction. And you'll definitely have to be honest with yourself to see if you are ready for this attraction. Because Tower of Terror is one of the scariest attractions on Walt Disney World property, but is also one of the most fun. So Expedition Everest and Tower of Terror are both equally fun in my eyes, because they're the hardest rides to do. And it is a huge confidence boost if you're able to ride every single attraction at Walt Disney World, because it took me until I was like 15 years old to do every single attraction at Walt Disney World. And then after that, I just continued to ride, and eventually, I didn't go on the first day. I went to Cedar Point for 2 days, about 2 years ago, and there's a ride called Top Thrill Dragster that goes 120 miles an hour, and it goes 400 feet in the air. Now, whenever that car goes up that hill, the literal track begins to shake after it makes that climb. And it was a little bit nerve-wracking, because that is a very tall thing. 400 feet's pretty tall. Alright, so I didn't do it the first day because I chickened out. But the second day, I went on it because, you know what? Oh well. And it was fantastic. Actually, my car broke down before we went on the hill, and we had to be evacuated off of that car and put into a different car. That was a little bit nerve-wracking too. I wanted to get off, but I actually did it, and it was a pretty easy attraction. You barely felt anything. Very fun though. So that is going to do it. So the hardest attractions, in my opinion, are Expedition Everest and Tower of Terror at Walt Disney World. And if you work your child up to this ride, then it should be easy for them. But if you do it out of order, if you try Expedition Everest first and they hate it, it's going to be a tough uphill battle before your kid will ever try anything else again. I know, because I've been on some scary attractions first, and I didn't work my way up, and I ended up hating rides for like 15 years of my life. But now I love them, so definitely. And I would just like to thank every single one of you for listening to this episode, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. Have a great week, everybody. Goodbye.